Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a massive, fundamental rewiring of how work actually gets done. We're talking about the seismic shift from those basic conversational chatbots we all know straight into the world of autonomous agentic systems. For anyone in corporate operations or management, listen up, because this is arguably the biggest operational overhaul since cloud computing hit the scene. So let's get right into it.
I want you to think about this for a second. When was the last time a software program made an actual decision for you completely behind your back? It's kind of jarring, right? If you've had a flight rebooked recently or maybe a prescription approved, there's a very good chance a machine made that call. Now, zoom out and think about the corporate enterprise space. Picture a massive vendor contract getting auto-approved or a complex global supply chain route being instantly reoptimized at 3 in the morning. No manager's signature, no human oversight. We're not talking about a suggestion or a recommendation here. We're talking about a final executed decision. This is the new reality of the interfaces we're dealing with today. All right, let's move into section 1, the silent decision maker. We are officially at the end of the world as the chatbot built it. We've crossed the threshold into the era of the Thinkbot. What we're doing is systematically ripping out human-to-human transactional workflows and replacing them with these quiet, automated background engines. Right now, as we speak, invisible digital actions are sweeping across corporate networks. They're auto-drafting emails, managing wildly complex schedules, and literally executing legal documents. Now, we know about 38% of users treat AI as a daily workplace tool, mostly to scrape information. But here's the thing. Just scraping information, that is no longer enough if you want your ops team hitting peak efficiency. We're moving way beyond just looking up answers. We are moving toward quietly, seamlessly executing multi-step tasks across entirely integrated corporate systems.
Which brings us to section 2, chatbots versus thinkbots.
To really grasp this operational shift, we have to put what we were using from, say, 2022 to 2025 right up against what's emerging today. The mechanical difference under the hood is absolutely profound. Think back to the first few years of the AI boom. We were using Inference AI, the classic chatbot. It's totally linear. You type in a prompt, it processes, it spits out an output, and then you evaluate it. It relies 100% on your direction. But Agentic AI, the Thinkbot, it operates on a circular plan and execute architecture. It doesn't just sit there waiting for a prompt. It actively hunts down a business KPI. And let me tell you, that completely flips a manager's day-to-day on its head. The system isn't waiting for you anymore. It's proactively grinding away toward a predefined operational goal.
Because when you crank that autonomy dial from 0 all the way to high, the human's role fundamentally changes. In that old Inference AI model, memory is stateless. The second you close the window, it forgets you. Agentic AI, though, has persistent memory. It remembers everything. But the absolutely critical takeaway here for operations leaders revolves around the user role and trust. You are no longer driving the car. You are just setting the destination and trusting the machine to navigate the traffic. This represents a huge shift. The core competency of a human worker is transforming from being a task driver into a task auditor. And that means we need an entirely new framework for corporate risk management.
Let's unpack that in section 3, agentic planning loops. So how exactly are these thinkbots pulling this off? How do they execute these incredibly complex corporate operations all by themselves? Well, the engine running under the hood is called a reasoning and acting loop, or a react loop. It allows the AI to take a high-level goal, break it down into bite-sized pieces, and then navigate through different systems to actually deliver a finished result. It works in 4 steps. It senses its environment, plans out a sequence of actions, acts on the very first step, and then, this is the magic part, it reflects on the outcome before it moves on to the next one. But if you're running an ops team, the million-dollar question is how you govern this continuous loop. Managers have to build in strict, non-negotiable guardrails. You set the boundary conditions during that plan phase, and you have to design crystal-clear protocols for when a human absolutely must step in during the reflect phase, just in case the AI hits some weird edge case it can't safely figure out.
Just imagine your current workflow for a second. Imagine an AI that can literally see your computer interface, open up your internal database, and completely handle all supplier invoices for Q3 with 0 input required from you. I know it sounds like science fiction, but it's not. It's here. With tools like Anthropic's Computer Use API or Google's Project Jarvis, these models can physically move a cursor across the screen. They can click buttons exactly like you or I would. They can bounce between web browsers, your ERP software, Slack, whatever internal communication tools you use entirely on their own to hit the goal you gave them. For operations teams, this cross-platform ability is an absolute game changer. It literally wipes out that massive pain point of spending hours just copy-pasting data between siloed systems.
Okay, moving on to section 4, the trust bottleneck. Now, we have to look at the other side of the coin, a really challenging dimension of this tech that is creating a massive new operational hurdle. Look at this data. Half of Americans feel that progressively offloading all this cognitive labor is actually making it harder for us to form meaningful relationships and think creatively. Half. Meanwhile, a tiny fraction, just 5%, think it actually improves things. Now, pivot that data over to the workplace, and the implications are just staggering. If your team feels that handing tasks off to machines is destroying human connection, well, that's going to tank team morale. It hits mentorship. It ruins cross-departmental collaboration. When you've got AI agents sitting in between human colleagues, basically mediating every single transaction, the underlying connective tissue of your company can degrade incredibly fast.
And as these agentic systems start taking over the functional parts of our lives, they're kind of colonizing relational space, too. It's pushing us way deep into the uncanny valley. Check this out. 1 in 10 Americans are already using chatbots for emotional support, and 4% are actively using them for true companionship. Bring that back to corporate operations, and it points straight to the heart of authentic leadership. If your employees are turning to a sterile, hyper-optimized interface for support, that is a glaring red flag. It points to a critical failure in human-to-human trust within your company. Operations leaders need to hear this loud and clear. As the functional, day-to-day tasks get automated away, your primary job totally shifts. Your main responsibility now becomes building the relational equity and the genuine, deeply rooted culture that an AI simply can't provide.
Because the reality is, the raw capability of AI, that's not the main issue anymore. The new challenge for organizations is proving, in real time, whether an actor is a human or a machine. Forbes did an analysis on this back in 2026 that hit the nail on the head. When an AI agent can flawlessly execute a stack of legal documents and manage your corporate banking without breaking a sweat, the bottleneck shifts completely away from intelligence and straight onto trust infrastructure. Ops teams have to build this infrastructure from scratch. We're talking about implementing cryptographic signatures for actual human decisions. We're talking about AI watermarking and maintaining intense, unalterable auditing trails for every single piece of vendor communication. If a system's output looks and sounds exactly like a human, you absolutely must have foolproof systems in place to verify who or what you are actually doing business with.
Let's wrap things up with Section 5, from driver to auditor.
With this digital ecosystem evolving at breakneck speed, we desperately need to redefine what makes the human worker uniquely valuable. If the machine is the one doing the executing, what exactly are you doing all day? This is a core tactical mandate for operations. Look, an AI can perfectly optimize a messy supplier dispute, or scrape a gigantic database in seconds, but it cannot sit across the table, look someone in the eye, and negotiate based on a 10-year, deeply trusting relationship. In a world totally dominated by thinkbots, the skills that are strictly human, creativity, social authenticity, and the capacity to build real trust-based relationships, those become exponentially more valuable. A machine can simulate empathy all day long, but only a human can actually provide it. So the operational imperative here is intentionally designing systems that cement your new role as the auditor. The Stanford Human Agency Scale is a brilliant framework for this. As your teams learn to manage these agentic planning loops, your whole organizational model has to shift. You have to draw a hard line. What is a human-in-the-loop process, where you're actively approving microsteps along the way? And what is a human-on-the-loop process, where you're just kicking back and monitoring the autonomous execution from a dashboard? Remember, you are no longer the driver of the individual task. You are the goal setter, and you are the critical auditor of the AI's work. Giving your teams actionable, clear advice on how to manage these loops, that is exactly how you maintain operational agency over your departments moving forward. I'll leave you with this. When your interface can think for itself, who is actually in charge? The chatbot era is officially over, and the agentic era demands an answer to this fundamental question. Because honestly, the answer is going to determine who captures the wealth and who gets totally left behind. As agentic AI starts challenging every single institution we have, from banking to complex supply chain logistics, you have to ask yourself, as these systems absorb more and more of our transactional lives, are they being designed to give you agency or to take it away? It's definitely something to chew on as you audit your own digital workflows this week. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.